Moses' story began to grow. Born in a land under Pharaoh's decree, firstborn male babies weren't meant to be. In the desolate land of Egypt, a child was born whose impact on human history would be immeasurable. Moses entered the world during a time of great turmoil and upheaval. His birth and childhood were shrouded in mystery, but the stories that have survived paint a picture of a remarkable individual. Raised in the court of Pharaoh, Moses was exposed to the grandeur and majesty of ancient Egyptian civilization. He was also witness to the suffering of his people, enslaved by the ruling class. These experiences would shape his worldview and ultimately drive him to lead his people out of bondage. Placed in a basket on the Nile for someone to find, Pharaoh's daughter's action would change mankind. The Pharaoh had issued a decree that all Hebrew male children were to be cast into the Nile River as a means of curbing the growing population of the Hebrews. It was a harsh and brutal policy, one that seemed to defy all sense of compassion and reason. But among those who were cast into the river was a child named Moses, who was placed in a basket and sent floating down the river. And as fate would have it, the Pharaoh's daughter found the child and took pity on him, raising him as her own. Raised in a palace, not knowing his past, his future would change God's people at last. In the heart of ancient Egypt lies the palace where Moses was raised. It was a grand structure, fit for a prince, with towering columns and intricate carvings adorning its walls. It was here that Moses grew up, surrounded by luxury and privilege, yet with a heart that yearned for justice and freedom. Moses' future would prove to be monumental, for he would go on to lead the Hebrews out of slavery and into the Promised Land. His journey was one of great hardship, marked by plagues, parting seas, and divine intervention. Yet through it all, Moses remained steadfast in his belief that his people deserved a life of dignity and freedom. Egypt's 10 plagues. The plagues, as described in the Bible, were a series of disasters that God inflicted upon Egypt as a punishment for Pharaoh's refusal to release the Israelites from slavery. These plagues included turning the Nile River into blood, a plague of frogs, lice, wild animals, pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and the death of the firstborn. The plagues had a devastating effect on the people of Egypt, especially the Israelites, who were already oppressed by Pharaoh. The plagues caused widespread death and destruction, and the Israelites were caught in the middle of it all. However, God spared the Israelites from the last plague by instructing them to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb. This event is commemorated in the Jewish holiday of Passover. The story of the 10 plagues of Egypt is a powerful demonstration of God's power and his willingness to intervene on behalf of his people. It also highlights the importance of obedience and the consequence of disobedience. A Hebrew within, for his people he would lead. At God's command out of Egypt, God's people would be freed. The Exodus is a captivating story of Israelites' emancipation from the shackles of slavery in ancient Egypt. It's a story of courage, perseverance, and the unrelenting power of human spirit to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. At its core, the story revolves around a single individual. He dared to stand up against the oppression of his people and demanded justice. His unwavering conviction and belief in the divine led him to challenge Pharaoh, the most powerful ruler of his time. The story of the Exodus is also a testament to the power of faith The Israelites endured immense hardship during their 40-year journey through the desert, but their faith in a higher power sustained them. With the guidance of Moses and divine intervention, they were able to overcome all obstacles and reach their promised land. Through the Red Sea, they journeyed to find freedom for all. Moses would lead because in God he would call. The miracle of the parting of the Red Sea has captivated the imagination of generations. This event, as described, is the biblical narrative occurred during the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt, where they were held in bondage. The story relates how the Israelites, pursued by the Egyptian army, found themselves trapped between the Red Sea and the advancing enemy. According to the story, Moses, the leader of the Israelites, called upon the divine for assistance. In response to his plea, a strong wind blew across the sea, causing the waters to part, creating a path for the Israelites to escape to safety. Once the Israelites had crossed, the waters returned to their normal state, engulfing the pursuing Egyptian army. This event, situated in the Sea of Reeds, believed to be in the northern region of the Gulf of Suez, in one of the most well-known examples of miraculous intervention in the biblical text. The parting of the Red Sea has been celebrated for centuries as a testament to the power of faith and divine intervention. Humbled and not reserved, not believing he had what it took, yet he took on the task, and for the land of milk and honey they would continue to look. Moses' beliefs were rooted in monotheism, the belief in one God, which was a radical departure from the polytheistic religions of the time. He saw himself as a messenger of God, tasked with delivering his people from bondage and leading them to a land of prosperity and abundance. The metaphor of the land of milk and honey comes from the book of Exodus, where God promises to bring the Israelites to a land flowing with milk and honey. It was meant to convey the idea of a bountiful land, rich in resources and able to sustain a flourishing community. The journey complete, as they would soon see. At least they approached and would now be free. As one of the most significant figures in the Abrahamic religions, Moses holds a prominent place in the biblical narrative. According to the Bible, he struggled with speaking and asked God to send someone else to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Despite his self-doubt, he ultimately rose to the challenge and became one of the most influential prophets of all time. Another lesser-known fact is that Moses had a wife named Zipporah, whom he met in Midian while fleeing Egypt. Together, they had 2 sons. In terms of his place among biblical figures, Moses is considered one of the most important prophets in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. He is revered for his leadership, his role in delivering the Israelites from slavery in Egypt, and his transmission of the 10 Commandments. But beyond his religious significance, Moses also holds a place in history as a leader who shaped the course of human events.